When you think back to those early days, President Hazen, what if there were 3 or 4 words that would kind of be adjectives to describe the church in those days? What would they be?
I think one of them is grassroots. The church began and grew on the grassroots level. Most other big movements started at the top, and the thinkers up here said, well, let's do it, and so on. There is no question but what we were grassroots. And being a part of that grassroots,
Right.
my own experience, I can make reference of it and go back to it. For instance, if a Church of God family moved from a town to another,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no Church of God there,
Mm-hmm.
there was no question about it. They felt called to begin a Sunday school in their home, or a Bible study, or a prayer meeting. And as a result, things began to grow and expand and whatever. And then eventually to the point of having to call a pastor, and here we go. But our first buildings were almost always on the other side of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
We were a mission church.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a town, and we even in the this would be in the 60s and early 70s. You go to a town and say, well, now, let's go to the Church of God this Sunday. Where is it? We could easily say to ourselves, well, find the railroad tracks and go on the other side, and there's where the Church of God will be. Or find out where downtown is, and where you'll find a storefront mission. There's the Church of God. And so we grew on that grassroots level.
Yeah.
There was an attempt to start churches from the Home Missions Board. And in fact, I was involved in starting a church, the first one, in Indiana, at Seymour, Indiana. And I went there with 9 people under their sponsorship. So they took care of my salary and helped me a little bit here and there. But since it was the first actual congregation started by the Board of Evangelism nationally and in Indiana, then I had the liberty to tap the neighboring church in Bedford on the shoulder and say, come and help us, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And so was able to, in 3 years' time, start with 9 and end with 125 people, and so on and so on. Beautiful story.
So we were grassroots. What other adjective would you use to describe us?
Another adjective, I would think, is the wholesome sensitivity to the leading of the Holy Spirit. A very common statement was, well, I felt led. I felt led to be a missionary and to go to Jamaica. I felt led. See, in the early days of my own pastoral experience, I felt led to pastor small churches, to bring them to the point of being strong enough to support a pastor full time and come get away from the mission aspect of that time. And with great delight, I look back and say, there's 5 congregations that were just going as a congregation. And by the time I left them in 2-3 years of each one of them, things wholesomely moved. One of the examples was I took the church in Niles, Michigan, and at that time there was only one family in that church that were property owners, and that was an elderly couple that owned their very humble home. All the rest of my congregation were renters. So you can see how beginning start that we had. While there, the church in Casapos was just about to close their doors. It had had a history, been going on for 20-some years or more, and at one time I had a halfway decent congregation. They were down to about 8 or 9, and so for 2 years I preached 4 sermons a Sunday, because if you're going to Church of God, you got to have Sunday morning and Sunday night. You just couldn't be a Church of God if you didn't have both of those. So I preached 2 sermons on Sunday morning and 2 on Sunday night. Preached in Niles at 9 and Cassopolis at 11, and then at 6 o'clock in Cassopolis and 8 o'clock back at Niles. At the end of those 2 years, I left, and both congregations had full-time pastors. And
Wow.
to this day, there are still 2 healthy, ongoing congregations. The Niles Church, in fact, there's 2 churches in Niles now, and the Cassopolis Church.
Yeah.
So that sense of being led
Okay.
was a strong feeling on, on even lay people. Well, I felt led to go talk to my neighbor